This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Sai. So today is actually the grand finale of the topic we've been discussing the last couple of weeks, with a number of other very interesting cases. Until now, we've been discussing the topic of the case of the poison sandwich. So if you haven't joined us, very bekitzer, case was there was a academically excellent chemistry student who was a social misfit, and as smart as he was, that's how poor he was socially. And basically, they were picking on him, and somebody would steal his sandwich every day. So he finally got smart. He put poison in the sandwich. The Ganav started to keel over middle class. He whipped out the antidote. And the question is it in fact permitted to poison a sandwich that's being repeatedly stolen? So let's just wrap up the sandwich topic with the conclusion halacha l'maisa is a yes, you are allowed to. Not only are you allowed to, in fact, halacha l'maisa, it is a mitzvah. And which mitzvah is that? That is the mitzvah of haliteu l'rasha v'yamois. Now let's just qualify. It's specifically in this case where the ganav is a repeated offender, and the person whose sandwich is being stolen is suffering, and he has no other recourse because nobody wants to help him out, and it's affecting him emotionally, and the ganav realizes that, so he has a din of a ganav lahachis. And in fact, not only is it permitted, it is actually a mitzvah to poison the sandwich, with no mitzvah to save the guy. That's the bottom line, how Rabbi Zilberstein paskins, as well as Rabbi Yashav concurs with that opinion. There are those who disagree, but the big names, so to speak, the big names paskin in accordance with Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. Let's just remind ourselves of an amazing tshuva of the Radvaz. The Radvaz is in Chelek Daled Siman 1357. The Radvaz did write a lot of tshuvas about Ruvain. Ruvain was married to a woman, and there's suspicion that she was being mezaneh with Shimon. So Ruvain divorces his wife on condition that Shimon cannot marry her. And Shimon goes ahead and marries her civilly. Then they elope, and Shimon, who did not know that Ruvain divorced his wife on this condition, that Shimon should not marry her, he's contemplating giving her real kedushin. So the shaila is, if anyway Ruvain divorced her, and Ruvain's not going to live with her, should Ruvain now give his previous wife a get, flat out, so that if Shimon lives with her, it would not produce mamzerim? And the Radvaz paskind. Now you would think, of course he should divorce her flat out, because not only it's koifen oisay midas sedoim. Ruvain has nothing to lose. He's not going to be living with her anyway, so he might as well give her a get, and this way Shimon is not living with an eishes ish. And the Radvaz paskins that no, he does not have to give her a document of divorce. Not only does he not have to, he should not. He should let this guy be over in Isser Dairaisa Michayev Misa. Why? Haliteu l'rasha v'yamis. Let the guy do a worse avera, and because says the Radvaz, anyway Shimon can't live with this woman, because when a woman is mezaneh, echad l'bal v'echad l'bayal, so she can't live with the bayal anyway. So once the guy is willing to be over a small isser of l'bayal, let him just violate the big isser, let him be chayiv misa, let Hashem take him and remove him from this world already. We don't need these people in this world. Remember that Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein quoted the Meiri, who says the lashon of haliteu l'rasha v'yamais is, the Meiri says mutav, it's better that he sin worse, better that God remove him from the world. And that in fact is the psak of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. Okay, we move on to another interesting case, number 40. Maisa Shahaya. Basically, there was in a dormitory, basically people were missing money in the dorms. After many repetitions, one of the victims realizes basically they knew exactly who the ganav was. The only shaila is, Where is he putting the money? So how in the world are they going to get out of the ganav where he's hiding the money? So they figure, in Ikesh Tispatal, they're going to throw a big Purim party, and they're going to have a lot of alcohol at the party, and they're going to make sure that the ganav really gets his favorites, and they're going to get him drunk, and nichnas yayin yatsa soid, and they figure he'll divulge a secret. Sure enough, Shimon becomes a shikar kaloit, and he starts rattling off all his chains of Geneva, and he even reveals his exact hideout, and they go there and they get their money back. What a beautiful story. And the shaila is, are you allowed to intentionally cause someone to get drunk, put him in a shameful situation? Lamaisa, this Shimon missed Marav that night. He missed Birchas Hamazon that night. And guess what? He didn't wake up for Shachris either. So the question is, are you allowed to shame someone, put them in a situation where they're mavato, mitzvahs haTorah, mitzvahs drabanan, just for one to get their money back? Well, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein says, if you could poison them, then this one is a cinch. This one is not a difficult challenge. In fact, the Gemara that we quoted earlier, the Gemara says, if you remember, in the Gemara in Yuma, look back at number 13, where Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi were going on the way. Rabbi Meir, the Gemara says, always looked carefully into people's names. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi were not medayik in names. So they came to an inn, and they asked the innkeeper, what's your name? And he said, my name is Kedar. So Rabbi Meir says, obviously this guy is a Rasha, because the pasuk says, what? Kedar tapuchos hema. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, they gave the guy their wallet. Rabbi Meir did not give the guy his wallet. What did Rabbi Meir do? He hid it by the grave of this guy's father. L'maisa that night, now the only thing is, that night the guy had a dream. And the father in the Olam HaEmes comes to the guy in a dream and says, by the way, you won't believe it, you can really cash in. Right in between my big toe and the next toe, I have this wallet stuck in there. It's really annoying me. It hurts. Please come remove the wallet. So, Rabbi Meir, he comes to Rabbi Meir, the innkeeper, and he says, by the way, I had this really great dream last night. Maybe you can interpret my dream. And he tells the dream to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says, don't pay attention to dreams. Dreams are dvarim b'telim. L'maisa, Rabbi Meir was very worried. He stood by the grave the whole Shabbos. Okay. After Shabbos, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, they go to the guy, and they say, give us our wallet back. He says, Lahadam, I know what you're talking about. What wallet? So, Rabbi Meir says to them, what's wrong with you guys? Why did you give him the wallet? You don't look at the name? The guy's name is Kedar. So they say to him, well, why didn't you tell us? So Rabbi Meir says, look, I figured if you're not worried, then why do I have to tell you? So they didn't know how to get their wallet back. So what they do? They took him to the tavern, they gave him to drink, and they realized that he had some beans stuck on his mustache, because why? He forgot to wash mayim achronim. He's like one of those guys, my minog is, I don't wash mayim achronim. Right? I didn't know there was a minog not to keep the Shulchan Aruch, right? But he said my minhag, and basically the Gemara says like this, that they went to his wife and they said to his wife, by the way, your husband said you should give us back your wallet. And she said, well, mehechi tesi. And they said the siman is he had shulin for lunch. So Shitaka gave back the wallet. He comes home, he asks the wife, where's the wallet? She said, I gave it to Rabbanan. What? You're crazy. Says the Gemara, you see from here, if you don't wash mayim achronim, you're going to kill people. That's the end of the Gemara. But says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, what you see from this Gemara is that if you want to get your wallet back, if you want to get your money back, you could give someone alcohol to drink. The guy probably forgot to make a bracha achrona on the cholent. That's his problem. He shouldn't have stolen the wallet. You steal somebody's money, you suffer the consequences. So that one is pretty simple, right? If you could put arsenic in the guy's sandwich, you could also get him a little tipsy to get your wallet back. What we want to do is discuss two very interesting cases. One is the case of the missing shampoo, And finally, we've been talking about the $25 million funeral, and that hopefully today we're going to get to the $25 million funeral. What's the case of the missing shampoo? Well, it was the 3 weeks, Mamish and Yana Diyama. It was the 3 weeks. The year was Tavshin Samach Tes. Knew what year?
2009.
2009, right? So Mamish, it just happened. The case of the missing shampoo, I'm surprised you don't know about this famous case. Is 3 weeks, and there was an outbreak. Nobody in the yeshiva dormitory could find their shampoo. Now you say that they didn't bring shampoo to yeshiva. No. They had good hygiene, they had their shampoo in the yeshiva. There was a shampoo ganav in the yeshiva. There was a shampoo ganav. Maybe a guy had a lot of hair, he needed to really clean his hair. There was a shampoo ganav in the yeshiva. So a few guys, some of the best bachar in the yeshiva, who they knew that they weren't the ganav, they got together with an ingenious solution. They decided to put in their shampoo the lapatory cream that makes your hair fall out. This way, the ganav, if they use the shampoo, his hair's going to start falling out. And then they're going to be able to apprehend the ganav. So number one, the shaila is, are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to put the lapatory cream in somebody's shampoo to catch him if you suspect that he's a ganav? Number two, B'chlal, are you allowed to use the lapatory cream to shave during the 3 weeks? Right, we know you're not, the Minog Yisrael for Ashkenazim is we don't shave during the 3 weeks. But is that only with a scissor? Is that only with a shaver? Is that only with scissors? Or even cream? Now once the poor ganav walks into the yeshiva with like patches of hair and patches of bald spots, can he now, when they cover Habriya, shave off with a shaver the rest of his hair so that he looks like a normal human being? These are three pressing issues that I'm sure on everybody's mind as we come into the 3 weeks. Can you, to save your shampoo being stolen, slip the lapatory cream in the shampoo? Well, I'm happy you asked. We're up to number 41. This is from the Sefer V'Haravna of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. Habachurim hechlitu lasis maisa ve'iru l'teich ha-shampoo. Right? Shampoo is a Hebrew word. Shin, mem, pei, vav. Right? If you want to know, it's not aleph, vav. Just in case you need to write it, the ivrit, it's vav. Mishchas, mishi. Meshi. Okay. Lahalon mivrak. Here we have a letter. Shenishach b'mei bein ha-mitzarim, tavshin samach tes. Le'ma'oino shel mareinu v'rabbeinu, shlita me'ez bachuri echad ha-moises. One of the Bachrim asks the following shayla. B'shuis ha'achroinos, hechla toifa shel genevas, prite rachza. It's one of the particulars of washing. Ulavush mechadrei abachur mebnim shalanu. Basically, the shampoo is being stolen. They couldn't catch the guy. They tried to do DNA tests on the fingerprints. They had the Mossad came down. They tried to do a DNA. They even checked the hairs on the bottom of the shower drain. They could not figure out who was stealing the shampoo. Well, Kiyamnu hiskansus chasha'is. They made a secret society. Okay, this is the secret society of shampoo catching bachram. Almanas l'takes eitzahich nitvois asagan. How are we going to catch the ganav? Echad abachrum hamavrikim hela rayin makar. One guy had an einfal. Kalacha meitonu Yosef labakbo kashampoo shalei mishchas mishi. We're going to put the cream in. Sheishtanesh haganav be tarkuvas. What does that mean? What is that?
Compound.
The compound? Okay. When the ganav uses this, formula, tizgala zahusay v'charpasa enkal. He's going to be caught red-handed, right? He's exposed. Kachosinu v'hatachnis hitzlicha. The experiment was successful, right? A few days later, some guy walks into Shiur, and he looked like, the bald eagle on the quarter, right? But he had spots. He was menumar. He had bald spots, patches. He was a mess. So he was very embarrassed, and he admitted he was makabel on himself never to steal shampoo again. And he did tshuva. I'm not sure which one of the Ashamnus he was mechavein to do tshuva, but he did tshuva. Okay, now the question is 3 shilas. Number 1, were they allowed to do this? It's a good thing they asked afterwards, right? Number 2, Are you allowed to shave this way? 3 weeks. Right? It's a great chap. Are you allowed to shave with this? And number 3, the Ganav came to ask the Shaila, one, now that he has these patches, could he shave the rest of his hair? Menei kavod habrios. Answer number 1. Are they allowed to do that? So, knowing the Shita of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, are you allowed to put the dilapidatory cream in the shampoo? Number 1, Habachurim nohagu kahoygen. They acted properly. Mishum, why? They were mafresh me'yisr. This way, every day the guy is stealing different types of shampoos. He now has one of the largest shampoo collections in Eretz Yisrael, and they're stopping him from his misdeeds. Ba'amed dvaram amurim, says Rabbi Yitzchak. That's only if you have no other eitzah. Avi, if there's other eitzahs, you want to set a mouse trap so that when he touches the shampoo, But if this is the only way to do it, it's mutter. Number 2. Are you allowed to do this during the 3 weeks? Well, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein addresses the following. He says, mutter linoi kein afil bimei bein hamitzarim. So really, if you want to know, I'm not sure what topic to put the shiur under. Maybe halachos of the 3 weeks. Are you allowed to put dilapidatory cream in ganovim shampoo to prevent them from stealing? The answer is yes.
Is the question to do it for the ganav or?
Yes, I thought the question is in general. So apparently, are they allowed to be machshel him in this avera of shaving? So Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein says it's mutter. Why?
So you're assuming it's also in general if one wanted
Here, so he doesn't address it head on. Look what he says. He says, even if you do want to consider it shaving, nevertheless, the issur of shaving during the 3 weeks is not midina de Gemara, it's only a custom. But stealing is actually an issur d'oraisa, right? It's an issur d'oraisa. If it would only be a minhag, maybe people would be more careful. But lamaisa, it's an issur d'oraisa. It's better, it's kedai, to cause him to stumble and violating a minhag and save him from the issur d'oraisa of geneva. Especially, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, in his opinion, it's not considered geneva because it's nivel. It's a nivel.
It's not considered giluach.
But it's not considered giluach. It's not considered shaving because it's not considered manicuring yourself. Instead, it's considered a shame. Lamaisa, there's a third issue, and this is very important to be aware of. Now, of course, everybody knows you can't use a razor. A man can't use a razor. What people are not so familiar with is we are choshesh for the shita of the rush. And the shita of the rush is, even a scissor, you cannot cut close to your skin in this area. So sometimes people want to have really cool sideburns. So they cut it very close. If the sideburn is not long enough, it's actually an issur of hakafas harosh. How long it has to be, whether it has to be long enough to grab or long enough to bend over, that we're not discussing today. But you do have to be careful if you get a haircut. First of all, you should tell the barber not to use the machine near your ear. They love to use the machine near your ear. But even without that, the scissor you have to leave. I'm not talking about those who are noyeg to have payas. That's minhag chasidim or sfaradim. I'm saying even without that, or if you cut it too short, if it's not long enough, in the payas have to be a certain length. According to the Rush, I'll show you. It's in Shulchan Aruch. It's a sif in Shulchan Aruch. So the question is the dilapidatory cream, even though it's not giluach, but still the hair is not long enough. So look over here. Ulam adayin kiyem chshash sheyigamru leganav v'masem lavar al isar hakafas harosh. You're going to cause the ganav to violate hakafas harosh. In other words, if he puts the cream by his payas and the payas fall out, so it's a problem. Who says you're not it's not a razor? Who says you can't use a scissor or a cream in this area? So halachan shulchan aruch sharei shaninu b'shulchan aruch payos harosh heim shtayim. They're two corners of the face. Soif harosh u'makam chiburei lelechi miyaminu masmal, by the jaw. Bein shegileach hapayos bilvad, whether you just cut off the payos. Bein shegileach kol harosh, whether you cut off all the head, all the hair of the head of hapayos chayev. But the shita of the mechaber is based on the Rambam. Einoi chayev elabatar. If you're cutting off the payas, it's only also with a razor. However, the Rambam brings down v'yesh oisrim, right? I don't know if it's Rama. I think it's the Shulchan continue. V'yesh oisem b'misvarayim ke'ein tar. Is there a Yardea here? Some Kuf Pei Aleph? Right? Some aser with the scissors like a razor. V'yesh lachosh l'debrayim. And you need to be choshesh for that opinion. So in other words, it is a problem. A person has to be careful if they take a haircut to leave the payas long enough that it would not be a violation of the Shita of the Rosh. Okay. V'imkein yesh levarer. Hayim yesh isra hakafas harosh. Thank you so much. Siman Kuf Pei Aleph. Yep. Siman Kuf Pei Aleph. Sif what? What? Oh yeah. So it's the Mechaber. Peois haroshim shtaim sofer roshim makom chibur lechem min small. Ben shilach habes vlad ben zal kosh and ves chayav. Says the Mechaber in Sif Gimel enoi chayav ela batar. That's the Rambam. The Mechaber himself says v'yesh oisrim b'misparayim ke'entar v'yesh lachosh l'devrayim. So the Mechaber, so this is for Sfardim as well. So the Shach says explicitly, shegoyzes b'misparayim, even scissors. Don't say, well, he's only using scissors. I'm going to cut it really close. Even with scissors, you can't cut the payas very close.
Is that behind the ear as well? No, that's the ear, is only the sideburns. The sideburns.
Over here, this area. This area. What? This area. Okay. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, Venira. So the question is, if you're causing him to remove his sideburns with the dilapidatory cream, so you're being machshel the ganav in doing this. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, are you allowed to do it? Of course you're allowed to do it. Right? You could even put a salami and a cheese and a beautiful sheet of cyanide. So certainly you could put, why? So he quotes the same old Gemara Bava Kama. The Gemara Bava Kama says that if you have arla, so if it's if it's a year of Shemitah, you need to mark it off, lest somebody come and eat the arla. But if it's not a year of Shemitah, you don't mark off your arla. But maybe a ganav will come and eat it. V'chayim misa. The Gemara says, let him die. Why is he stealing it? Like signoiv. He has a warning. Don't steal. So too here. You're not telling him to shave off his head. It's not his. It doesn't say his name on it. It's my shampoo. It says, Lashem haaretz umalaya, shampoo zeh, bershus, Daniel Yaakov Glatstein, what are you taking my shampoo for? That should be warning enough not to take my shampoo. And number 3, even forget about that. Because once the guy, basically the same reason, once he's violating the Isser Geneva, then we'll apply the rule of Haliteo l'Rasha v'Yamais, and he writes in the bottom, like my famous psak of the case of the sandwich. Okay. So now, the moment you've all been waiting for. And this case, I learned a new English word that I'm going to share with you. Here's the case. During the Holocaust, a Jewish man had a son, and his wife passed away. His wife was taken by the Nazis, but the man and his son were saved through a Gentile woman who took them in. Ultimately, the man and this woman, they're living in the same house. They start living together like husband and wife. And he fathers a child from this woman, and the child is not Jewish. So the man has 2 kids. He's a Jewish child, he has a non-Jewish child. After the war, somehow the man makes his way to America with the Gentile wife and the Gentile son, and he loses all contact with his Jewish son, who ends up in Israel. Many, many years later, the Jewish son in Israel gets a letter from the American government that his father passed away, and his father left over Yerusha of $50 million, to which he's entitled to half of it. Okay, so he comes to America, and he's going to get $25 million, and the other kids get $25 million. Now the shaila is, where's the guy going to be buried? So the Jewish son wants to give the father Kfuras Yisrael. The Gentile son said, over my dead body. Your father, our father, lived with my mother his whole life. She's buried in a Gentile cemetery. He should be buried next to mom. and a fight erupts. Who's gonna have the right? Who's gonna have the authority to bury the child? And to bury the father. And they argue. Finally, they take it to court, and the judge issues the following ruling, rather Solomonically: burn the body and split the ashes. Yeah, Solomonically. I don't think I ever heard that word before. Right, like Solomon. Okay, that burn the body, cremate the body, and which is not halachically permitted. And you'll get half the ashes. You could bury them in Israel, and he'll get half the ashes buried next to Mom. Obviously, the Jewish son was very disheartened, was very upset by this, chas v'shalom, to cremate the father's body, and he figures to himself, look, if he's getting $25 million, he has some extra cash to spare. He turns to his half brother and he says, look, I'll give you $50,000. You give me the right to bury Dad. He's very smart. He says, if it's worth that much to you to have the rights to bury Dad, so you give me your $25 million, and gesundheit, you could bury him wherever you want. You could burn him, you could scatter his ashes in the Ganges, whatever you want to do with him. And he wasn't giving in. And it was going to be a long, drawn-out court case. Meanwhile, the body of the father is mutal b'bizayin. So the shaila is he obligated to spend $25 million to bury his father?
Yes.
No.
Very good. Either yes or no. Those are right.
The answer.
So basically, Baruch Hashem, we have Kulanu Chachamim. We've basically narrowed down the answer to one of two possibilities. Or Yachliku, or we could do like the judge said, right? Rabbi Say, Kibbut Avayim. Do you need to spend money on Kibbut Avayim?
No.
No? You don't? Kibbut Avayim, Mishel, Av. So, L'cha'ira, the man would not have to give up 1 penny to have the right to bury his father. That's what it would seem. But, obviously it's not so simple. Let's read the case. Take a look at number 1. This is on your last sheet. This is the part of the shiur that's called the $25 million funeral. So if you thought that the poison sandwich has anything to do with the $25 million funeral, actually it has nothing to do with each other. Just a catchy title, okay? The case of the poison sandwich and the $25 million funeral. The guy did not eat the poison sandwich, okay? Okay, so look at number 1. Shaila kazu oid lo shamati me'oidi. It says, I never heard such a shaila. I heard shailas about poison sandwiches, about dilapidatory creams and shampoo, about getting ganovim drunk, about a $25 million funeral I never heard. Amar behispailos, moyri v'rabi, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zubashin kasher higi elav hashela nor haba. When the following issue, by the way, if anybody wants to read about these cases more extensively, in volume 6 of Contemporary Halachic Problems, Rabbi J. David Bleich discusses at length the case of the poison sandwich, where he deals with the details of Rabbi Yitzchak Zubashin's psak, and he deals with this question also all the way at the end of the book. If you want to take a look at it, or you could get your own copy. That's if you want to see further. Okay, so here's the shaila. Lefnei kishivim shana, 70 years ago, Nasa Yehudi b'Poland isham no lebein. Man married a Jewish woman in Poland. They had a kid. Lachar nesuin parts of Milchemes Olam Shniya. World War II broke out. Ha'isha nisbasa b'shoah. The woman perished. Acha Yehudi b'nai nitzla yidei nachriya shech nisasan lebeisa. A Gentile woman took in the father and kid. V'rashma es abatudas hazahu shalah kilu baila. And they forged some kind of document that there's an official marriage. On the marriage license, he's married to her. They ended up living together. V'hiyol ben nachri. Rachman al-Atzman. They had produced a Gentile child. After the kid was born, America, they ran to America. And the first kid ended up in Israel. Next paragraph. Yeah? In the course of the years, basically the kid didn't have anything to do with the father. The day came, Kibel ben Yehudi to He gets a letter from that his father passed away. Basically, the kid was the son now has the right to divide the estate, which comes to a grand tally of $50 million. Right? I hope you know what that means. Okay. As Hamomoy Nara Bikesh Ablachag Ben Beis, Ban of Shava B'Shava, they were going to split 50-50, each one a whopping $25 million. By the way, you know Chafetz Chaim over here, you know how they built their building. Mm-hmm. Somebody left a Yerusha, a guy in their car, a guy who didn't even have a home. He left Yerusha maybe $20 million. No, his Yerusha was $20 million, half to Chafetz Chaim, half to the Difskin orphan home, and nothing to the Mishpacha. And I believe what happened was the family claimed he was crazy, and which he wasn't. Just they didn't want to have anything to do with him because they didn't know he had money. And basically they threatened to drag it out in court, and they settled. They got $6 million, 7 to the orphan home, and 7 to Chafetz Chaim. So, like the New York Lottery slogan is, "Hey, you never know," right? So, basically, the shaila is the kid's a God-fearing Jew. Mir lagel beis aviv, v'reishis kol his anyin b'sidrei hakvura. The first thing he wants to take care of before collecting it, cashing in, right? Rabbi Yisai, it's halach and shulchan aruch. When somebody passes away, when a relative passes away, there are 2 brachas you make. You make dayan ha'emes, and you also make ha'toy v'ha'meitiv. Toy v'ha'meitiv. Yeah, dayan ha'emes, the person passed away, and ha'toy v'ha'meitiv, because you're getting Yerusha. It's halach and shulchan aruch. But the first comes first. You take care of the kvura. V'kan niskal. The kid said, "We're burying Dad today in the Gentile cemetery, right next to Mom." Basically, fight broke out. They wanted to bury by the Jewish cemetery near the wall, and the guy said, "No way." Okay, so what happened? The Shoifet Ha'arel Paskind, Pshara. We make a Pshara, right? We're going to burn the father's body. So obviously this sent a shiver down the Jewish son's spine. How could such a thing be? And he has the following Einfall: I got a big Yerusha, I'll pay him off. But the Gentile was smart. He said, if it's so important to you, $50,000, if it's worth $50,000, it's a lot of money, then maybe it's worth $25 million. So the legend has it, the way the story is reported here is a little differently than in the contemporary halachic problems. He brings it down from a Torah journal in England, if I'm not mistaken. Basically, he brings it down. It was in the European journal Kol HaTorah, volume 61. And then Rabbi said, "You wouldn't believe this. You know where else the story found itself? I must have missed this one. Mishpacha." Kislev, 5766. Okay, that's where. Fine. I don't know. I guess I didn't get it that week. But bottom line is, according to Mishpacha magazine, and according to this European journal, the man paid the $25 million. He did. But apparently, the shaila here presented itself to Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. What should be done? So Rabbi Isai, Pana haben, the last paragraph, El Moir V'Rabbi V'Navshoy. Is he obligated to be mevater this awesome Yerusha? He already was zeichen. In other words, his money. It's not like it's before the father died. If it's before the father died, that's one thing. But now it's in my pocket. It's in my bank account. It's transferred to my account. Do I have to shell out the money? Hare nifsak lahalacha ki barav mishal av v'loy mishal ben. Right? Who remembers the Gemara in Kedushin? Look at number 2. The Gemara in Kedushin Daf Lamed. I boy lahu, mishal mi. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, mishal ben. Rav Nasan Maroshi Amar, mishal av. Oyru le Rabbanon, le Rav Yirmiyah, va'amri la, le Braid Rav Yirmiyah, Commander Amar, mishal av. So it would seem like an open and shut case. You don't have to pay money to honor your father. Not b'chayav. And not b'moisai. So why would the guy have to forego his Yerusha to pay for his father's funeral? To which Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein says, again, the opposite of what we would have thought. he is absolutely obligated to forgo every penny to bury his father. Okay? Why? Why?
His father's giving him the money, then it's really the love.
But once your father, let's say your father gives you $50 and says, oh, by the way, I'm really hungry, could you buy me lunch? Yeah, you could say, sure, give me your credit card. Once you're zoich in the money, you are not obligated to spend your own money on the father.
Kiddush Hashem.
It's a very expensive Kiddush Hashem. How much money does a person have to spend? You don't have to spend more than a fifth of your money. Is it a Kiddush Hashem? I don't know. To the Goyim, what's wrong with the Gentile cemetery? Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zubashin, it's pashut lahalacha, you need to spend the money. And the reason is, who has to pay for one's own funeral? Whose obligation is it? The person themselves, the deceased. Upon whose money is chal the responsibility and the shibud to pay for the kura? The person themselves. So yes, the father died and he left over money to both sons. But this money has a lien on it. It has a lien for the father's burial. And if in this case, burying the father means spending $25 million, there's a lien on the money to pay for the funeral. Even though you could say, this is not a classic case. When the father leaves money for the son, and now the father has to be buried, so the kid's going to go to the funeral chapel, and the funeral chapel says, who's paying for it? The kid says, I don't know, not me, I'm alive. So they could say, no, the money, the father's estate is meshubah to the kvura. But that's when the money is going for the kvura. Here, the money's not going for the kvura. The money is going to bribe the other brother to allow him to give authority to you to bury the father b'kvuras Yisrael. But even so, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein, this is all part of burial arrangements. Whoever you need to bribe off, be it as it may, and the chiyuv, the shibud would actually be chal on the father's estate. So before even the son is yoresh the money is already responsible to pay for the burial. So let's just take a look. Look at number 3. So a very interesting case. Mishanosan mima moinoi matanois harbe. Let's say a person, before they go, they give over a lot of their money to other people. V'shir ma'at liyarshav. And they leave over, let's say they have $10 million. So they give all of their friends $500,000, and they leave the yoresh $5,000. Who has to pay for the kvura? The yoresh. He only left me $5,000. It's not even going to cover the cost. Too bad. The yoresh has to pay. Why? Doesn't say. Look in the again. Mishanasan mimamoinoi matanois harbe v'shayir ma'at liyarshav hayorshim chayavim l'kover. The yarshim have to pay for the kvura, not the bezdin, not the chevra kadisha, not the ear, the yarshim. Why? Says the Sma. Hayorshim chayavim l'kover. Why? Shehin b'makoim avihen. They take the place of the father. V'hanechasim sheyarshu, and the nechasim that they inherit, shem avihen alein, carries their father's name on it. V'koivrim oisai mishaloi, and they pay from his money. Well, let's take a look a little bit more extensively in number 6. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein in the Sefer Bahar Avna. Heishiv moiri v'rabi. Ne'emar b'Shulchan Aruch. It says in Shulchan Aruch, Mishanasan mimamoinoi matanois harbe. Someone who gives many gifts, v'shir ma'at liyarshav, and leaves over a little bit to the yarshim. Hayorshim chayavim l'kavri. The yarshim have to bury him. Dahainu, rak hayorshim chayavim l'kavri. V'loi mekabli amatonos, not the ones who got the gifts. Uvetama davar. What's the reason? Chasav asma. Shehayorshim heim b'makam aviyam. The inheritors take the place of their father. V'hanechasim sheyarshu shem aviyam aleim. And whatever possessions they inherit, they have their father's name on it. V'koivrim oisai mishalai.
Excuse me, in essence, if the father gives away his children all his money as a gift, and then nothing is left, which means they are not obligated.
Correct. In other words, if the father gives away everything, Or let's say the father only leaves over a small amount of money to the kids, which is not enough to cover the cost of the burial. They would not be obligated. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but they would not be obligated. They're not. The chiyuv is not on them. The chiyuv is on the money, right? Exactly. That's exactly the point. So he says, he quotes the Prisha. Okay, I didn't want to read it in the Prisha itself because the letters are very small, but Rabbi Yitzchak Zubashin quotes it. He says, the money of the deceased has a lien on it to pay for the burial. So I was wondering, is it only his property? Is it only his land? No, it sounds like the money, the loan, the obligation preempts the money being transferred to the Yarshim. Now, what if the father said, don't bury me. Don't bury me. I don't want you to bury me. I'm not leaving you money and I don't want you to bury me. Or I'm leaving you money but I don't want you to bury me. Doesn't matter. We don't listen to him and we use his money. There's still a shibud on the money. Bezdin will go down to his money and bury him. In other words, let's say a guy leaves over money, he doesn't have any yarshim. And he left over in his tzava one thing, don't bury me. Bezdin will take the money and bury the guy. Why? Because it's his own personal obligation. The kol shekain, that they'll take certainly they'll take away from the yarshim. La'ar zois, in light of this, says Rabbi Yitzchak Zubashin, l'chayra gam ninan ninan chayiv ben lavater al kol hayerusha k'dei likvaras aviv v'loi laharshois l'sarfai. Now, if I were him, he needs to get a better attorney than to spend $25 million to convince the guy to let him bury. But that's the right. It's a kasha and a ma'isa. V'afa pisha ben anochi sachat as yerusha, even though basically the Gentile son is squeezing him, it's extorting him. It's not like the money is going to the funeral chapel. It's really indirect. You're paying him off to have the rights to make the decision. What? Well, according to the Sefer of Haravna, V'hinei shama haben. Yeah.
Once he moves over to 25 million, he then has to lay out his own money to pay for the poor. That's even more than that.
No.
It costs him $55,000.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Yeah. Once he pay, in other words, the $25 million is meshubed to bribe the guy. Now we have now that the guy might not have any money to bury. Now it's not his problem.
So what's he going to do?
He's got to pay with his own money.
What? I assume that once he's willing to forgo $25 million, he'll get a hold of another few thousand to bury the guy. But if you want to know halacha l'mayis, now that would be an interesting shaila. All the money I need to bribe, but if I do that, I'm not going to have any money. So do I have to put myself in that situation? Maybe not. That's like one of these what's it called? Imponderables, you know? Yes.
Would it not factor in that, number one, the father himself is not Jewish, and number two...
Father was Jewish. He was Jewish. If he wasn't Jewish, there would be no Shiloh here, right? You don't bury a... Yeah, he's Jewish.
His mother was Jewish.
The first mother was Jewish. The second woman was a guy.
Okay, and in case like this, though, would it be necessary for the father to specify that he wanted to have a Jewish funeral?
He didn't. The father probably didn't want a Jewish funeral. The father's living with a Goya his whole life, but it's not up to him halachically.
They want a Jewish funeral in the first place.
It doesn't matter. He's obligated to have one. It's his personal obligation. In other words, if a Jew leaves over in their tzava, don't give me a funeral. They want to be cremated. We ignore that. They have no right to do that. It's not a person's body does not belong to them. It's on loan. A person's guf is on loan min hashamayim, and you are not the decider what to do with this. It doesn't belong to you. Sorry, you want to say something?
When he brings the proof from Mamona Shalames Meshubad Likach
Yeah.
Tzorche Kluroso. So normally you would say Tzorche Kluroso should be what's the normal amount of money that you should have to pay for a funeral. So maybe you would say that he's obligated to give $10,000, because that would be what you would normally have to have for a kavura. So for that, the meshubot on the 25 million is on $10,000 that normally you would do a kavura. But to say that in order to get permission to bury him any way you want, and you have to give up $25 million, that's already that's not what the halacha requires. But he's saying, Reb Silver is saying that no, you have to give it all up. But that's not necessarily the interpretation that you could say that the shibud of the money is only on what's a regular kfura.
Yeah, well, he does.
$million.
He addresses that. I mean, he says, I don't know if there's a distinction between regular kfura and very expensive kfura. If you're obligated to bury yourself, then the money is subject to that obligation, whether it's a inexpensive kfura or very expensive. The point, the objection he makes is, you're not even paying the money for burial. You're paying the money to some other guy so that he backs off. So that I would ask the following. Why is a person obligated to bury themselves? Where does it say in the Torah that I have to bury myself? L'chara it's a mitzvah d'oraisa, kavar sik berenu. How much money do you have to give up for to be mekayim a mitzvah d'oraisa? A fifth. Is $25 million more than... In other words, if the guy was alive, would he have to spend $25 million to bury himself? I don't think so. He would only have to spend a fifth of his money. So why then would the Yarshim have to spend more? Unless the reason why you only have to spend a fifth of your money to be Mekayim Naseh is because you might need it. But the good thing is that once you're not alive anymore, you won't need the money. So, I don't know, maybe there's such a distinction. Rabbi say, so bottom line, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein reports, V'hinei shama haben asachras harav, the son heard the psak of the Rav, V'omad b'nisayin hagadol, and he withstood the test, Huviter al ha-Yerusha ha'atzuma, he was mavater on the Yerusha, Kibel Turasa Gufas Aviv. Instead of the money, he got his father's body. V'hiviyoi l'kfura b'kever Yisrael. Rabbi Sai, this is what is known as the $25 million funeral. V'shalom al Yisrael.
How did the seed manage to make $50 million?
Oh, that's the big question, right?
What's the difference?
He wants to know how he made the money. I know, that's what I think.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.